Hey everyone, welcome back to Talking Shop with ShopSabre. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about getting out of your own way when caring really isn't a problem. You know, I think a lot of people, they think caring about their business is their biggest problem and that they care too much. And yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about that today. But first, I'm your host, Brandon Bombardo, here with dad joke extraordinaire, Nick Peters.
How's it going today?
It's going. Took us like 25 minutes to get this episode off the ground.
At least, but the pre-show party is going to be
great. Pre-show party.
Was great. It's going to be great.
Yeah, we have a pre-show party and then we have an after party every time.
Yeah.
This is not true. We don't have either of those things.
We did yesterday.
We had just like
last week.
A stumble through it last
Clearly,
episode.
Alex had nothing to do yesterday.
Last week.
His boss was, whatever it was.
It just aired yesterday.
Yeah, that's true. His boss was gone, so he just decided to screw around all day, it seems like. Just kidding, Alex. You didn't do that. You work very hard.
I feel like I was here all day, too.
Well, okay, his underboss.
True, fair.
Whatever you want to call him.
So I was here.
Yeah.
Anyways, do you ever feel like you're just holding yourself or your business back?
Sometimes, I think. Yeah. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, you're probably not alone on that, though. We're going to talk about that today. We're going to dive into it. Talk about the truth on this topic because it's something I really want to get into because I think a lot of people, they view caring deeply as a problem.
Well, and do you think, I don't know, I think some people are getting in their own way without even knowing it.
Right. And I think it's an underappreciated strength, truthfully. Like caring is an underappreciated strength because there's a lot of people that just don't give a crap.
Right.
And yeah, so I think that's today's episode. We're going to talk a little bit about that. I don't know why I said I think that's today's episode. That is going to be today's episode. We're going to talk about that later on today. But, you know, as always, we start off with a little current events and having a little bit of fun. Yeah, I want to kick that off a little bit because we got district hockey tournament. We're there now.
Yeah, it's almost too warm for ice anymore, huh?
It's
Wait, you play hockey all year round?
Yeah, I was going to say that. This year, and I think it kind of goes to be said, people play in Texas and they play in Arizona. Right. So ice exists year round, but Minnesota, there's a bajillion. That's a bajillion.
That's a really big number.
That's a big number.
How many zeros is that?
I don't know. A lot more than a billion. But we have that many ice rinks. And so there's just, ice year round.
If you think about it, during the wintertime, we have at least 10,000 ice rinks because all the lakes are frozen.
Well, in the winter, the number of ice rinks in Minnesota is unreal because, just in my neighborhood alone, there's 5 of them.
Right.
Because the dads build ice rinks in the backyard and then they flood their own rinks and they make their own Zambonis and literally.
Those are the coolest things.
It's so cool. And you think about it and then every organization typically has their own outdoor rink and every city has their own outdoor rink. And so you start to add up just the number of outdoor rinks on top of all the structured rinks for year round, right? And it's just unreal how many rinks come and go throughout the year. And in fact, Minnesota Wild, they do I don't remember what the contest is called. You remember it? It's your rink or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, your town's rink or whatever. And you could nominate rinks throughout throughout Minnesota, and then they vote on it and somebody wins every year. And some of these rinks that get nominated, they're unreal, the amount of time and energy these people put into building a neighborhood rink.
Awesome.
Yeah. So for us, we're wrapping up the true hockey season, the winter season here. My son's team is now in district playoffs right now. So yeah, we're going to hope, fingers crossed, that we can put together some solid end of year performance here and make a run at it. But it's been a rough season. They've had a rough season this year. I think we've won 3 or 4 games.
But as long as you win the ones that matter this time of year, right?
That's what they say. Just got to get in the playoffs.
Turn a chance.
Yep, get in the playoffs. And the nice thing is everybody gets in at this age. So.
Every time I hear the word district talking about hockey, I think of Mighty Ducks.
That's what everybody thinks of, the Mighty Ducks.
Yeah, every time.
Yep, but we're at the end of the season. It's in sight. And then we are rolling into AAA season. So then we go right into summer hockey.
You got another goalie coming up the ranks?
Yeah, my son.
The 2 of them?
My youngest wants to be a goalie now. So my wife is adamant he's not going to be a goalie. I'm pretty sure he's going to be a goalie.
Yeah, usually the boys win that argument.
Yeah, it's just, I'm one of those dads that I want him to have fun. It's about passion. It's about having fun. Right. And if that's what he enjoys doing, that's what he's going to do. And goalies, there's a shortage of goalies always. So I'm not against encouraging my
You got to
kids.
be a special kind of weirdo to want to stand on the people fire pucks at you. I don't care the amount of protection you have. I would still like.
My
flinch
kids
and get away.
are my kids are fitting that mold perfectly. I mean, their dad's not weird either. So
Did you dance on the ice like they do with their stick and pads on in the goal crease?
I didn't play hockey.
Oh, you didn't?
Nope.
Oh,
I grew up playing soccer.
me too. And golf.
Yep. And then I got into hockey. Like at 5 years old, I started skating, but I like played intramural hockey and stuff. But like that's a different level. Like it's just not the same. But yeah, my kids are far better players than I ever was, and yeah, they're loving it. And if they want to be goalies, so be it.
Heck yeah.
I know you shipped your daughter off at the end of last week.
I did.
Yep.
She went up to Wolf Ridge for 3 days.
Yep, she did the Wolf Ridge thing.
The Great White North.
Yep. So
Hopefully
that
there's some snow up there for them to enjoy their outdoor activities. That's kind of cool.
That's cool.
Be quiet around the house for 3 days though. Be kind of weird,
Yep.
but
Well, that's good.
it's fun. It'll be fun.
And then
Race car season.
race car season. Yeah, say we're moving into race car season. That's kind of fun. We, something that I realized like through race car season, I realized this because now NASCAR's been on and we've had several races now, and every time I watch it, I get like less entertained by it because like a couple weeks ago at Atlanta, Carson Hocevar, I think is the guy's name, like finished second, his best finish ever in the Cup. And he first thing out of his mouth when they did the interview was him apologizing.
Everybody hated him. I watched almost that whole race, and everybody
Yeah.
was like mad at him.
Yeah, because he was just like trying to race to the front and like
ramming through people?
Yeah, and like well, he didn't even ram through people. It just
Putting his car in places that it didn't fit.
people were just mad because like he wasn't playing teammate, right?
Yeah.
And it's like I mean, you're
None of
kinda-
it really seemed dirty.
No, it wasn't.
I mean-
And I'm gonna be honest, as a racer, like if you put me in a race car, I want to win a race.
Yeah.
Like that's what I want to do. And like as a sponsor, if I'm gonna have my logo on your car, I want you to win the race.
And
So,
now-
like-
and they were talking about him and showing his car the whole time, so it worked, right?
Right. I mean, so like, I don't know. To me, that's like, you did something right. So, but I feel like sports is rapidly turning into a sponsorship, like run, controlled, whatever you want to call it, skit.
Yeah, a lot of like the actual sport seems to be taking out of a lot of things because it's
Yeah.
just. I mean, remember 5 years ago there was nothing gambling related on any of it,
Right.
And now that's all you see.
That's all you see. Drives me crazy.
But they like act like they don't want their athletes participating in gambling. Like, how do you can't have it both ways?
You're trying to tell me that the athletes somehow aren't doing something with it? I just don't believe it.
It seems almost impossible.
It's impossible. You can't regulate it enough.
No, it's just it is what it is. Like if you're taking hundreds of $millions from these websites and casinos to sponsor your sport,
Crazy.
You can't just tell people they can't do it.
No, exactly. And that's my thing is like, I don't know, like businesses need to get out of their own way, right? That's
sure.
kind of today's topic. So
All sports are rigged, anyways.
they're rigged.
There's no reason the Vikings haven't won a Super Bowl in the last 200 years
Oh,
or 60 years, whatever,
well, I can tell you why they didn't.
because the NFL didn't write it for them to win it.
Gary Anderson, wide left.
Come on, man.
Moving on.
That's the last time I cried about sports.
Yeah, well, Blair Walsh, wide left.
I mean, yeah, whatever. That was expected. We didn't expect anybody. We didn't expect them to win that game. We all knew it was going to crash and burn. Whatever. Your Wild team started out hot last night, and then what'd they do? See? I just threw the dagger back.
I don't want
at
to talk
you.
about it.
All right.
All right, moving on.
Customer questions and comments.
Okay, let's go. Tell me
right.
what you got.
Number one, on the miter fold video. This is brilliant. What did you use?
What did I use?
A router bit?
What did I use or what bit did I use?
Oh, yeah, what bit did you use? Sorry, I missed a word there. What
I was
bit?
like, wait, what did I use? I used it for ShopSabre. You had me confused.
Sorry.
We use the Vortex cutters. So Vortex makes actually miter fold tools specifically for miter folding, and that's the tools we use. So there's a variety of different ones that you can use, and it's going to depend on what material, thickness, such as that, obviously how big of a miter fold you're going to need. So my recommendation is contacting, Vortex. Talk to those guys over there. They're phenomenal dudes, and they will get you all set up. Like those guys will get you squared away with what you need. But yeah, that's what we used. And I agree that it's an awesome process. It's kind of crazy because that video has been out for a little while, and I have seen an increase in comments about miter folding lately. So it's just, if you haven't checked the video out, if you haven't seen it, make sure you go check it out. It's on our YouTube channel. But miter folding is something that a lot of people don't take into consideration with their machines. And the way we show it in that video, I think really brings some light to how it can be done and how easy it really is.
Obviously takes out a lot of work of doing it by hand.
Right. There's a lot of automation with, I mean, you're using a machine you already own.
Right.
So yeah, it's kind of
cool. Number 2, I might even know the answer to this one.
Ooh.
Why do you consider reference pins a popular option? Can you explain their benefits? I guess just my amateur knowledge.
Here we go. This is amateur hour by.
It obviously makes it very simple to align your sheets, right?
Right.
Takes a lot less work out of putting your sheets up there and then manually lining everything up.
Yep.
With your machine, correct?
Yep. Nope. That's a good explanation of it. It's exactly that. It's gonna reference. It's a reference mark, right? It gives you something that's consistent. As you said, when you're lining your sheets up, that's the easiest way for people to, equate that to something they're going to do, is because you're going to load a sheet on the table every single day, right?
Right.
So when you load that sheet, you want it to be in the same spot. Now, I want to unpack that a little bit further, because as we unpack that further, it's not just about aligning that first sheet. It's about, you're cutting a cabinet, but you're going to cut a kitchen, not just the cabinet, right?
Yep.
So as you're doing 10 sheets or 20 sheets, well, it's all for one job. And so you're going to set your 0, you're going to set your job up, and that job's all set up, right? You've already designed it. So it tells you need 12 sheets of melamine, right? So you throw the material up there, get sheet number 1 up there. But now you don't want to have to reset the job every single sheet you put up there. So the nice thing about the pins is that sheet 2, 3, 4, and so on all match that same.
You can just keep hitting go, and it knows that
you just load the next file and keep going. Exactly. And so that's the first advantage to it. The second advantage to it is double-sided machining. If you have double-sided machining set up in your software where it cleans up the far edge, then when you flip the sheet, again, it gives you a reference point, so you don't have to reset your zeros there. Makes it more accurate for double-sided, especially when you're doing like a shared, upright. And then the third way to use it that people, I think this is the most overlooked reason why reference pins make sense, is if you need to create a fixture or a jig or something to hold down parts or something that's going to reference a part or a piece. An example of this would be, we have a video on YouTube, I believe called The Mandolin Factory, that we did with Router Bob. And we showcased how you can make a mandolin with your ShopSabre. But it's an example of that can be used in any manufacturing situation where you're making a completed fixture, right? And so that fixture actually slides down over the pins. So the pins are referenced. So you know that fixture gets on the table in the same spot every time.
Yep.
And then the vacuum lines up to the vacuum grid below. And so everything lines up. So when you put your parts in there, you're in the same spot. So when you aren't doing that project and you take that fixture off the table to go do something else, you still have the versatility of the machine, but you don't lose the accuracy of your fixture. So that's something that people don't sometimes think about. And so that's why, to me, I would say reference pins are so important and so popular, is because they give you a versatility with the machine while maintaining an accuracy that otherwise is human element.
Yeah, I mean, takes really any worry out of having to get back to point A, right?
Yeah. So hopefully that answers that question.
For sure. When you talk about fiber laser versus plasma, if I have a plasma now, where would I see a difference when upgrading, or is it worth replacing my plasma at all? I mainly do 3/8 and down mild steel brackets.
So there's a lot there. I think the first question was, where would I see a difference in upgrading, right? Am I correct? Did I hear that correctly? So the first question, or the first part of your question, where do you see a difference? It's really going to be in the precision, and we kind of talked about this in last week's episode, the precision of the holes, right? What you're going to be able to do. So as an example, if you need to put a bolt hole in something where you're going to slide a bolt through it, or a rivet even, right? You're probably going to have limitations in your plasma on how accurate you can get that hole. So you have to oversize it a little bit so that way the bolt slides through cleanly. With a laser, you can size that hole appropriately so the parts just slide straight through. So that's one area that you're going to see a difference. The other thing is like, as you get down into the edge finish itself, you're going to have a lot less cleanup on a laser system than you do a plasma. Just there's less dross, less, material on the backside of it. So your post-processing is a lot quicker. And I think the second part of that question, I think, was something with the material they're running. Am I correct?
Yeah, 3/8 and under mild steel.
Okay. So, yeah, if you're cutting 3/8 and under mild steel, the nice thing is that's like the sweet spot of our fiber laser, because 2 kilowatt will do that all day long. So you're going to get an extremely noticeable quality difference when you're looking at 3/8 and down, from a speed perspective, but also from an accuracy and, overall precision tolerance. So to me, it's absolutely worth you investigating laser. Now, the real answer to that question when you say, is it worth me investing in it, is, well, what is important to you?
Right.
Is accuracy and precision important to you? Is the post-processing, is the quality of the cut important to you? If the answer is no to all those things, then no, it's not worth your time. But
it goes back to last week's episode, you have to go through them steps and determine what you really need, what you really want, and what you're looking for.
Yeah, so this is actually a good comment for that person to go out and check out last week's episode, because I think it'll explain about a lot. Obviously, I would assume that this person has not seen last week's episode, so hopefully, if they're listening to this week's episode, they're going to go back and check last week's out, because it will talk a lot about laser versus plasma.
And hopefully they've used that plasma machine to make enough money where they don't have to replace it. They can just add and level up in their shop, right?
Yeah, and I think that's the key there, is that you don't have to replace your plasma. You can add to it.
Yeah, for sure. What do you got for an audience question this week?
Yeah, so I have one I'm pretty excited about this week. When do you consider cost versus when do you consider the value? And what I mean by that, because maybe that's not clear to somebody out there, is that the cost of something, right? Cheap, right? That's what I'm saying, is like when something is cheaply priced, when do you consider that as a more important piece than what am I getting for the price I'm paying, right? Does that make sense what I'm getting to?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the way that I hear it is, what is the expectation you're looking for? I mean, are you expecting to have something that lasts you a month? Mm-hmm. I mean, depending on what you're buying, obviously. But are you looking for something to just get you by, or are you looking for something to take you through the long run?
Okay. Yeah. And exactly. Like that to me is like exactly what I'm wondering is, when does somebody consider like the cost of something versus the value of something?
Like, I'm going to go out and buy a car to drive during the winter because I have a car I don't want to drive in the winter, right?
Right.
Are you going to go and spend a couple $1,000 for something to get you through 4 or 5 months that you know will work?
Yep.
Or are you going to go buy something brand new that you're going to drive for the winter, and then you're going to drive your nice car in the summertime?
Correct. And I think that's a good way. So I guess, for you, Nick, when do you consider cost versus value? What's important to you on that?
Well, I mean, I think just like what I said, if I'm looking for something that, I don't know, if I'm going to buy, so let's say I bought a new camera a couple years ago. Right. I'm going to spend a little bit more money to get something that I know is going to take me through the next several years of my business, as opposed to upgrading now for a little less money because I know it'll upgrade me to, for a year. Mm-hmm. Buy something top of the line so it's going to last through another couple models until you need a new one. So you can use its whole life up, right? Yep. You don't want to buy something and then just use it for half of its actual life and then replace it.
Right. Yeah, and I think for me, the answer is a lot simpler than that. My answer is just simply going to be, I look at cost when it's a throwaway item, right? If it's something that I'm going to use up and just throw away, then I don't want to spend a lot of money on it.
Sure.
But if it's something that I'm going to depend on, right? Something that we're going to use over and over and over, and we really, it being broken or worn out or whatever the case may be, used up, being a hindrance to me, then I'm going to look at value.
Sure.
So that's how an extension cord is a perfect example, right? If I buy an extension cord, it's something I plan on using for a while. So value is important to me. I don't look for the cheapest extension cord because I don't want the extension cord to start on fire and then burn my house down, right? Or my shop or whatever you want to say. Like I probably invest a little bit more there. But when I'm looking at, something that I'm going to, with no other way of putting it, like fertilizer for my yard, I'm going to put it down one time. Yep. Like I'm not going to buy the top of the line stuff. Like I don't care enough to spend the extra money there. So to me, value comes back to, is it something that I'm going to use repetitively?
Yep.
Like a refrigerator. Yeah, I can buy a cheap model, or I can buy the one that isn't going to, wear out in a year. So that's how I look at it. I guess even in a CNC machine, as I look at that way, I'll go back to that, is that from a CNC's perspective, like I'm going to depend on this for my business. I don't want something that I have to fix every day.
Absolutely, 100%.
So that's my question, is when do you consider cost versus when do you consider value? So answer it in the comment section below. Shoot us an email, whatever's convenient for you. We want to hear from you. So that's what I got. Should we jump into this week's episode?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So today we're going to talk a little bit about, as I mentioned earlier, recognizing when you might be in your own way and how you can channel that, into growth and channel that into actually removing roadblocks, right? Making it not a roadblock for you. Sure. So I think a lot of it is caring right? In business, a lot of people are passionate about what they do, or at least I hope they are. Hopefully that's why they're doing it. And so it's just about understanding, like, do I care too much?
And that is, it's possible to do, right?
Right. And, I think you have to understand why, first off, like, why do you feel like you're the problem? Let's start there. Why would one feel like they're their own problem? Well, most likely, as you kind of look at what you're doing, right, you're involved in everything. Whether it's your personal life, if it's your business, however you're interpreting today's conversation, right? Do you care too much? Maybe you're asking, do I care too much about my kids? Do I care too much about my family? Do I care too much about sports? Do I, whatever it is, or do I care too much about my business? And that's where I'm going to kind of channel it in today is, are you involved in everything, right? If you're involved in everything, it's easy to overwhelm yourself, right? It can become overwhelming.
Yeah, I think if you have to be involved in everything, you don't have necessarily the right people working for you, right?
Well,
to an extent.
Correct. Well, that's a good point, because that's how you can view it, right? Or you have the right people, but you just don't trust them.
Right.
And that's the thing is, like, if you spread yourself too thin, are you intelligent enough to recognize that? Can you say, I'm spreading myself too thin? Can you accept that and say, you know what, I got to do something different here? And that is either hire more people, right? Or reduce the volume of burden I'm putting on myself. And so the other thing that will tell you, why you might feel this way is, are you second guessing? Are you doing every decision that is made? Do you second guess it because you're a perfectionist?
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Because a lot of times you make a decision, but because you're a perfectionist, you're wondering, did I make the wrong decision?
But how do you really know though? You won't know until.
And that's why people worry about it,
reaction, right? Yeah.
And then, are you hesitant to make a decision, right? That's the opposite side of it. Do you hesitate to make a decision? You prolong decision making, or, you're hesitant to even delegate a decision, right? You don't want to let somebody else do something because you feel like, and this is, I think, the biggest one, you feel like nobody cares as much as you do.
Sure.
And I think a lot of times they don't care as much as you do because you're overbearing. They don't want to care as much as you do because you're going to overrun them anyways.
I think that's a perfect example right there. Like, right. You need to make your people want to. Everybody cares to a certain extent. But if you make them feel like you're not going to value their opinions or the things that they're doing or the decisions they're making,
right,
they're not going to want to help, right?
Well, there's that. And then I think, the opposite side of that, let's look at the flip side of that. Like, you listen to the opinions of the wrong people.
Yeah, if somebody's not working in your shop, they shouldn't be telling you how to do something.
Right. Well, exactly.
Right?
And I think a lot of times your employees want to have an opinion, but you're listening to the opinions of outsiders.
Right.
And that opinion may not be in your best interest, right? The reality of where you sit here now, let's look at the reality of what, these are all things that we just said are things that may or may not make sense, right? But the reality, caring isn't the issue, right?
Correct.
That's not your problem.
No.
It's how you manage that care, right? You're micromanaging. That's your issue here. Or that's where people have their biggest issues. They micromanage, and they, being hands-on is a great thing. I don't think it's ever a bad thing to be hands-on in business. In fact, I think it's a bigger issue when people don't want to be hands-on.
Sure. You have to know what's going on.
Right.
Like, there's a big difference in knowing what's going on and knowing what's happening day to day, as opposed to like controlling everything that happens and controlling the people that are doing those things that you have trusted them to do their job.
Right. And I was going to say, it's being hands-on is great, as we said, but not if it's hindering your business's ability to scale, right? To grow. Because if you don't put your hands on it, then it doesn't get done. Well, now you only have so much time in the day, so you can't get it done. Therefore, the business waits, and people are getting frustrated around you because they know they could be moving things ahead, but they're waiting on you to put your hand-stamped approval on it.
For sure.
And I think that's the problem. And then, the other side of it is when you are listening to others, it's a great skill. I think listening is a skill that's a lot of times a lacking skill in most people.
For sure.
Right? Something you can work on. It's something I work on all the time. I'm not always the best. I need to slow down sometimes and just listen more than I talk, right?
For sure.
And I'm on a podcast, so I talk a lot. But it's not if the opinion of those around you are heard or not, right? It's not that they're not allowed to have an opinion. It's just you're not willing to listen, right? Like, just understand the opinion. Doesn't mean you have to like take it to the grave, right?
Sure.
Like, they said it, so I have to do it. Like, and I think that's the problem, is it's the opinions of those not interested in what you're doing or what your goals are that affect you.
Listen to the opinions that come from the right place.
Right. You need to understand their motivation. And a lot of times I think that's the biggest thing is that people, your critics often are the people not doing what you're doing.
For sure.
And a lot of times people listen to their critics too much. And it's like you need to not listen to those who aren't performing the work the way you are because they're below you for a reason.
Right. And if they're a critic, do they really know what they're criticizing? I think you got to look at it that way too. Like if somebody just comes to you and says you're doing something wrong,
right,
but has no actual idea really what you're doing.
Well, I always look at it this way. Critics are great for you because they open your eyes sometimes. But you have to be willing to weigh the criticism and understand where is it coming from and what is the intention.
Right.
Because if you can't understand what that intention is
it actually trying to help me or are they just trying to be self-serving?
Correct. And that was the answer that I was looking for there is because how do you turn that into a strength, right? So how do you turn caring into strength, not a roadblock, right? Let's dive into that because what caring really means to me, right? And it's going to be your commitment, right? Caring to me is a commitment to whatever it is that you have. Like here, I'm going to use ShopSabre as an example. Yep. My commitment is to quality, right? And to customer satisfaction. That is what my commitment at ShopSabre has always been. I don't commit to anything else. I commit to quality and customer satisfaction. And that's where I care. And I'm like non-negotiable on that. Like I will help everybody as far as I can help them within reason until they're giving me a reason not to, right?
Sure. Yep.
And then I start looking at like, you have to protect your brand reputation, right? Caring is protecting yourself.
Absolutely.
Understanding that you have good intentions and you're not going to let people try to put you on blast to act like you don't care about people, right?
Right.
And so like in your business, you have to think about that. Like, do you have an employee that is just bad for the culture, right? Maybe they're spreading negativity throughout and it's like they're making you feel like you're less of a person when in reality, your intentions are all there. Maybe you misspeak, maybe you say something and it's blown out of context rather than being able to sit down and have a conversation, but it's blown out of proportion, right?
Yep.
You have to understand those situations and understand that, sometimes it's better just not revisit it. Just walk away.
Yeah.
Because your intentions are good. You know where you're trying to lead business. You know what you're doing for your customers. Your customers know what you're doing for them. Like, it's okay. Like, stop second guessing yourself because you had a disagreement with a customer, because you had a disagreement with a vendor, because you had a disagreement even, with your spouse, right? Maybe that's what it is. And like your spouse doesn't believe the way you're running the business, right? Like sometimes it's just like you're in the business every day and you know the heartbeat of the business and you just have to believe in the actions that you've taken are going to get you.
Well, and I think you need to just believe in the 99 out of 100 times that we're good and not just let the one, negative interaction that might not have even been necessary or warranted, like take over your thought process and think that you're doing a bunch of things wrong just because one person overreacted.
I think we all do that though. Like in our lives, the one negative thing that happens is what we remember and we forget about the 99 things that went right.
Because we strive for perfection, right?
Like my son is a perfect example of this. I'm going to use him as a goalie, okay? As a goalie, like you have to learn, and it's something I've tried to teach my son over the years, like as a goalie, you have to have a short-term memory. You have to.
Yep.
Because the puck goes in the back of the net and the next shot is coming. You need to just move on. It's the next shot that counts, right?
Yep.
And if a goalie sits there and hangs on to the one puck they didn't save, they're going to eat themselves alive. When in fact, you made 40 good saves. So yeah, you gave up one goal on 40 shots. And yeah, you lost the game because the other goalie gave up 0 goals on 20 shots.
For sure. Yep.
Okay. In your mind, it's easy to beat yourself up and say, I'm worse off, right? No, you made 39 great saves. Yes, you gave up one goal. You can't think about the one goal you gave up. You need to think about the 39 things you did right. And in your business, it's no different. You need to be able to think about the 39 things you did right this month, not the one thing you did wrong.
Right. Yep.
Move on. You got to be able to do that because investing the necessary time and effort into your desired growth and innovation is really where like your focus is. And that is caring, right?
Absolutely.
You're putting your time into something you're passionate about. And it's easy to walk away when things get tough and focus on, something else. But you've chosen to reinvest your time and energy into yourself. And so the fact that you are thinking about it isn't a bad thing.
Not at all, no.
It's a good thing because you care. And it assures that you're going to grow in the future.
Right. And then how do you continue to channel that care through your business?
For me, you have to trust your team. That's something I've tried to be big on. You hire those you trust, right?
For sure.
If you don't trust them, you probably don't hire them, right? The interview process should be used for that to find out. I use an interview process a lot of times for a cultural fit more than I do anything else. Like, are you a cultural fit? Can I see myself trusting you with our baby? Right?
Yeah.
This is something we're really proud of. So, and then you need to go double down on that. I trust you, so now I'm going to train you. I'm going to give you the knowledge, because knowledge is power. That's what they say, right? I know it's cliche, but it's the truth. I'm going to give you the knowledge to be successful. I'm going to help teach you. I'm going to trust that you're going to ask questions when you don't know, right? And then I'm going to let you take ownership of it. And I'm going to let you take over that position and fully and let you figure it out. And honestly, like, I'm I'm a little bit more of a micromanager when it comes to like initial hires.
Sure.
Because I'm not going to give you trust till it's earned, right?
And I can speak to that.
Right.
I had zero knowledge of this industry or type of thing when I came into it. But I mean, just because there was maybe somebody else here that didn't want to give me the job. We won't say any names, Curtis. But I mean, all jokes aside, like I had no idea, like, and just happened to see your post on social media one day, and we chatted, whatever. I'm like, hey, let's do it, right? And
right.
You put me in that spot, let me learn. Like trusted me to learn it. Gave me the tools to be successful, and
try.
We still obviously have times that we don't always meet the satisfaction level. I mean, there's always, not always, but there's things that happen, right?
Hey, but I don't meet the satisfaction level some days.
Right. But we discuss it, and we like empower each other and work together to reach the common goal, which is customer satisfaction, right?
Right.
So this all just kind of falls in line with what happens here.
Right. Well, I think the other thing about you asked about, how do I channel the care, right? It's also you have to prioritize the bigger picture, right? You need to be able to look at your big picture. You need to be able to think about, where are you intending to go? Where's the roadmap, right? How do I get there? And then you need to focus, right? That's the biggest thing is you have to take the time to focus your energy on a strategy that is going to build towards that goal.
And get you the end result, right? And not expect it immediately. You're going to reach the result with all the work that goes into it.
That's the problem is people have short-term, attention spans.
Yep.
And the day-to-day is all they think about. Today. Oh, didn't see what I needed today. You got to have trust that, you're going to have down days. It happens.
Sure.
But the down days are a stepping stone to an up day.
You can't prevent it from moving forward.
Right. You may not see your results today. I tell my son that all the time again. Like he goes to practice. He's at 5:30 in the morning at practice. He sees 1,000 pucks a week.
But that's why you're doing it.
Exactly. And it doesn't mean that like the next game that he steps on the ice, he's going to have a shutout because he saved 1,000 pucks. Like, no, it gives him the tools and the experience of comfort, right?
Sure.
Like I've been here before. I've seen a puck here. I've done this. I have the confidence. That doesn't mean that shooter on the other side shooting at him isn't putting the same effort in.
Right. He's probably got the same confidence as you do.
Correct. And that's the thing is, so
right?
you have to understand that like in business, it's the same way. Your competition isn't just sitting around going, we've got it figured out. Like, no, they're doing the same thing. So like you have to understand that just because you're not seeing big wins today doesn't mean they're not coming. Just big wins are often small victories over a long period of time.
Marathon, not a sprint, like we always say.
Right. And I think that's what you have to think about is that you have to also take calculated risks, right? You have to embrace calculated risks. That's the bigger thing there is you need to understand that growth requires stepping outside of your comfort zone. I think you're a perfect example of it. You stepped outside your comfort zone. Say, hey, I'm going to do something I've never done in my entire life. I've been in this industry for 20 plus years, and I'm going to step into an industry that I've never been into. That's uncomfortable. But you need to learn that you have the capabilities to do it. And so, again, questioning yourself, do I care too much? The real question should be, do I care enough?
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Because if you care enough, you're going to step outside your comfort zone. You're going to be comfortable being uncomfortable for a little bit. And you're going to say, you know what? I'm going to learn this. I'm going to figure it out.
Yep.
And I think that's where a lot of people like, when you start to think about getting out of your own way, right? Let's talk about that here because I wrote down a few things and I apologize. I'm kind of grazing at my notes here a second. But I wrote down things that get in your way, right? Signs that you're in your own way. And then things I wrote down was like, one was micromanaging every details. As you look at it, do you need to be involved? Ask yourself that. When you're micromanaging something, does this require me to be involved? Or am I just being involved because I can't let go?
Right.
Right? Does this require my involvement? Yes or no? And if the answer is yes, then you know that you're not micromanaging for no reason at all.
Correct.
If the answer is no, like you truly don't need to be involved and this is going to get done and you're going to be fine and you can review it after, then you're probably micromanaging without a cause.
Absolutely.
So you have to learn to let go of that. And then avoid decision making out of fear, right? If your decision making is because you're afraid to fail, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to be wrong. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to regret making that decision. Like, you're probably holding yourself back.
Because you probably did something to get you to that point of wanting to make that decision, right?
Yep.
So go with what got you there.
A lot of times the answer is clear.
Right.
And you're questioning it because it's so clear. And the thing that this is something that somebody told me this last weekend that I shouldn't say they told me specifically, but they wrote a post about personal gratitude or personal satisfaction. And they're talking about how this person, who I consider a good, close family friend, moved to a different country, believe it or not. And this person was a teacher here in the United States. Taught, I'm just going to say it's a health class, right?
Yep.
And this person said, you know what? I'm going to do that in my new life where I've gone, I've relocated her spouse, relocated them. And she's like, I'm going to get back to doing this. And this person that I'm friends with wrote, it's amazing how you are so willing to beat yourself up. So before the first class that they were going to teach, she's thinking like, how can I do this? Why would I believe I can be successful at this? Why did I put myself this? And like, just, it's that self, like beating yourself up. Like how many people sit here and go, I'm going to be a failure. I can't do that. I'm not as good as somebody else. And you beat yourself up. But what I find funny is that we as humans, if somebody comes to us doing that, if Nick, you came to me and said all those things about yourself, I'm going to always be like, no, dude, like you're wrong. Like, this is what I think of you. This is how, and you're going to do the same thing for me or the next guy. Like, yep. And we're always willing to lift each other up unless we don't know, right? Like, if I don't know that you need to be reinforced that you're doing a good job in this, then we don't do it. And it's like, sometimes I think we need to get out of our own way and realize it's okay to care and tell somebody like, you're doing a great job.
Yep, for sure.
And make them realize they aren't failing. But also, if we would never run around and tell everybody else they're failing, why are we so willing to tell ourselves that we're failing?
It's a great question.
Why are we so quick to judge ourselves when we won't judge others? Give ourselves the same respect we give other people.
Are we just afraid of being wrong?
That's what I don't know. Like, and that's what I'm saying is like, you have to avoid making decisions out of fear of failure. Because if your friend came to you and told you, hey, I'm going to go do this thing, you're going to encourage them if you think they're really good at what they do, right? You're going to be passionate.
Absolutely, yeah.
But you won't do it to yourself. You won't. You know you're good at what you do. Like the cabinet maker as an example. I mean, how many guys work for a company? They're the best cabinet maker, and then they know they're good at what they do, but they're afraid to go do it themselves because they're afraid of failing.
It's comfortable.
Correct. So you got to step outside that comfort level, right? And then resisting change is another thing. I think there's a lot of people that resist change because it's uncomfortable.
And
as you said,
it's worked for so long, and it's worked for so long. They feel like they don't need to change it.
Yep. Nobody grows in the comfort zone. Nobody.
But then also you're staying in that zone because you're, again, doubting yourself and thinking you're going to fail because you changed something.
Right. And I mean, I always ask people, what's the worst that happens if you fail?
You go back to how you were doing it before.
Right.
Start over.
Like you can always go back. Like you can always change a job again.
Right.
You can always sell the piece of equipment. You know what I'm saying? Like if you take the step and you realize this isn't for me, there's always another strategy.
But man, if you don't take that step,
you never know.
Turns out it would have been.
You never know.
Yeah, you'll never know. But
right.
Dang. Yeah.
I always joked like at the end of life, I wonder if there's like a highlight reel, like that you get to like watch this highlight reel of yourself, and then like they're like, if you would have done this at this time, this would have happened. You're like, oh shoot. Like
that's a fascinating thought.
Like I just want to know that. Like, is it like, oh, like A/B testing? Look at you chose this, but if you would have done this, look at this. Like, oh, dang it.
Yep.
So like that's how I've always looked at it. You got to live life to the fullest, right? And how to step aside without stepping away, right?
Right.
Because that's the next thing is if I'm going to step aside, if I'm not going to micromanage everything, how do I do that without completely becoming disconnected?
This might be the most important part.
I think
almost.
so.
I think so.
Because you have to delegate with trust. You're going to still delegate, right? You're still going to set up, certain parts of your job that you were doing, right? Maybe you're spreading yourself too thin. So you're going to say, you know what, this thing I'm going to give to Nick. This thing I'm going to give to Chad, right?
Yep.
Let them do these things. But it's not just a task. I'm not just going to say, you do this now, good luck.
Yep.
Right? No, that doesn't make sense. You can't manage something if you can't measure something. So you have to give that task to somebody with an accountability, right? Hey, this is my expectation. This is how I'm going to measure success. So they understand what their expectations are. And you can kind of set the ground rules. The goal is to do this every day. Like customer follow-up is a perfect example. As we've talked a little bit about customer follow-up here, right? You've taken over that over the years. And I used to do all of the updates and everything and then tried to sell machines. And I couldn't do it all.
Yep.
When we hired you, I told you, hey, my expectations are you're going to make contact with customers at these points. You're going to give them an update at these points. I should be able to see it in the logs that you have noted this stuff, right?
Yep.
And that's how we track it. How many times a week do I have to come to you now and ask you, did you follow up with these customers?
It's been a while.
Yeah, I don't because I trust the system.
And that's like you empowering us to do our job,
Right.
right? And trusting that we're doing it once you've laid the
Well, it's
ground rules
delegating
to
with
do it.
trust.
Sure.
Right? It's telling you how I'm going to manage it. I know I can go look. I know that I can look, but I don't have to ask you questions now because I just go look at my measurement. And if my measurements fall within my guidelines, there's no reason for me to micromanage it.
For sure.
I don't need to invest that energy. And you have to make sure that when you delegate with clear goals. That's the first step. The second step is empowering your team to solve problems. You don't have to be the catch-all on everything. And sometimes that's where you think you're caring too much because everything has to come to you. And sometimes it's such a little thing, it doesn't need to involve you.
Especially when you have the people in place that can handle it on their own. And you know that they'll handle it to the best of their ability and make things right.
Right. And I mean, I just look at my earlier career when I was younger, when I was micromanaged by other managers in my life. It frustrated me.
For sure.
Because
We've
I'm
all
like,
been there.
you don't trust me to do the job. Like, you're not giving me the power to win. You take all my wins. I get us there. I can't make the decision that I know is right, but I have to come to you. You approve it. You say we're good to go. Okay, sign off. Your name's on it. My win is your win.
Right.
And that frustrates people. So you have to give your team the power to win. Give them the ability to be the winner. Your job is to lead the pack, right? You don't have to hold the trophies.
No.
And so you have to set a clear expectation and accountability. I mean, of course, with every failure needs to be accountability.
Yeah.
You can't assume everybody's going to win, right? You have to understand that when you fail, there's going to be, a measuring stick.
Well,
right?
we all know that none of us are perfect in anything we do because
Yeah.
I mean
I've
we're
been
always
fired 5 times.
Yeah.
4 times, whatever. But then you go until the results or the data, you let go until the results or the data give you a reason to step back in.
Right.
And when you step back in, this is where people fail the most. They step in and they never let go again. You have to understand that people are going to make a mistake once in a while.
Yep.
You step in, you correct the mistake, you give them guidelines, you give them a new course of correction, right? You give them your measurement, and you step back again and see if they correct it.
Well, and obviously the mistake wasn't big enough that you got rid of them. So
Right.
you're allowing them to come back and do the work again,
Right.
right? So hopefully you work through it, have that discussion. The
Correct.
person takes it the right way and learns from it, and you move on and do things right going forward.
Right. And not everybody will understand that in your life.
Right.
Not everybody that you work with is going to understand. You're going to have employees that are like, I can't believe you didn't let them go, blah, blah. But it's like, you know what? They didn't fail in such a way that it cost us. Yes, it was inconvenient in the moment.
Yep.
But my goal isn't to just move on from inconvenience is small. We can overcome inconvenience.
Right.
And so then what happens when you step back, right? Well, more innovation happens at a business a lot of times. Like when you step away, because it's fresh perspectives. You think about that. Fresh eyes on something. It's ideas that you can't come up with because they weren't yours.
Well, and I think when you have that type of culture, like you talked about before, people will be willing to share those ideas with you.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? But like if you have an idea, but you work for somebody that doesn't ever listen to you or doesn't seem like they really care what you're doing or how you're doing it, you're not going to bring those ideas to them, right?
Yep. New ideas, new perspectives, and new growth. That's what I've always told people. Is like when you get somebody involved that wasn't here previously, sometimes just listening to what their idea, it doesn't mean their idea is great all the time.
Sure.
But their idea might spark your idea. That's what people don't realize. Is sometimes the better idea comes from another person's idea because somebody spoke up.
And then you can build off of it.
You can build off it, exactly. And then you think about, the increased efficiencies you start to see because you're spending less time waiting on some person who the controller of the dam, right?
Yep.
You spend less time because you become more efficient, you become faster. Like look at a river. When you block a river up with a dam, it slows the river down, right?
Yep.
If we can open the river up, it's going to move everything quicker. Now, granted, there are cases where you need to restrict things, right? There's a reason for a dam sometimes. So you have to understand that and realize that you're trying to increase your efficiency with faster decision making, allowing things to happen faster. And pride in your work goes a long way.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, if you don't care, you're not going to get much work done, right?
Right. And I think if you delegate with trust, people take pride in what they do because you trusted them with it, they're going to do a better job. They know their name is on it.
Right. And it builds a stronger and more confident team, right?
It has
and you're all going to win together.
Right, exactly. You have to be able to win together, and it does build a stronger, more confident team because every single person is rowing in the same direction. They always, they talk about, we joke about it all the time that like if you can get a team all rowing in the same direction, you can take over any business, any industry at any time.
Absolutely.
Like, you really can. But the problem is a lot of times organizations are so unorganized or they beat themselves internally that they literally are their own worst enemy. And so as you look at your business, if you're sitting here as a 3 or 5 man shop trying to figure out how to get to the next level, get your 3 to 5 men or women on board with each other.
Stay out of your own way.
Yeah, start working together. And that means buying equipment or technology or software, whatever you got to do so you can all align together.
And take in their thoughts and opinions on those things before you do it and evaluate all possibilities before you just jump into something, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel confident that if my dad, my brother, and I jump into anything together, we're going to be able to be very competitive with that industry. I mean, if we become a pizza place, we're going to be one of the best damn pizza places around. Not because we're the greatest pizza, makers or, any of that. Like we're just really aligned with the idea of what our goals are, and we're going to go find a way to do it. And like, that's the way you need to be, is like, just have the confidence in who you are and that knowing that caring is not a bad thing. You should care about what you're doing. And real world is business owners who choose to delegate and choose to trust and choose to, grow will find the most success.
For sure. You can't do it all alone.
Yeah. You'll have happier, more engaged employees. You'll end up with better work results, in the end. And so really, I mean, the conclusion for me on this entire episode is that caring is never a problem. But fear, control, hesitation, they all can be. Absolutely.
Yes.
Like those will be an issue for you. When you learn to channel your care more into a leadership role, I think it makes a big difference. For one, your anxiety will go down. But you have to be a leader rather than a micromanager. You have to. Yep. And your business thrives simply because you are leading the pack now. And leaders take others on a journey. Remember that. Leaders will always take you on a journey. Micromanagement will tell you where they want you to go.
Exactly right.
So
you just have to trust your team.
Right.
Trust what you're trying to do.
Yep.
And I think just most of all, trust that your care is the foundation of what you have going on, right?
Right.
And it's going to lead you to success.
Yeah, you have to, and that's a line I actually wrote on the paper here too, is that never forget what makes you successful, right? Like don't forget what got you where it was your care. Because you cared, you moved to that next level, right? You moved to that next step. And that actually kind of brings me into my next section of this, which is always my motivational quote of the week. And I kind of wanted to tie this all together in kind of a different way this week, is because I wrote down a motivational quote that I think fits this perfectly. And that's almost every successful person begins with 2 beliefs. The future can be better than the present, and I have the power to make it so. And so again, motivational quote for this week is going to be almost every successful person begins with 2 beliefs. The future can be better than the present, and I have the power to make it so. And so that's why caring matters, because you cared enough to start. Don't give up on your hope because you care. Figure out how to use your care as a positive towards your business.
Love it.
So yeah, my hope is that you took something away from this, that really you realize that you aren't the problem with your business. You're doing a good job. You have to just rechannel your energy. And And honestly, if you're ready to take your business to the next level, if you want to start, by trying something new in your business, maybe it's CNC automation. Like, I encourage you to give us a shout. Call ShopSabre, visit our website, shopsabre.com. You can check out all the great equipment we have there. But also, you know what? I want to hear from you, the listeners. Like, tell me your experience. Like, tell me, when did you realize you were in your own way mentally versus actually physically in your way, right? Like, how can you step out of your own way? What did you do to fix it? Like, I would love to hear from listeners. If there's anybody out there that's experienced this in their own way, whether it's their life, their business, sports, whatever, relationships, I'd love to just hear like how what we've talked about today pertain to your life and how you think it helped you, or if today helped you. Like, maybe today was an eye opener for you. I'd love to hear it. But obviously, don't forget to like our episodes. Don't forget to subscribe to us. Share it with other people if you think today could help anybody else in their life. Maybe you got a friend of yours that you don't realize they're struggling, and by simply sharing this episode and they listen to it on the car ride home, they start to realize that they're better off than they thought they were. We're all in this world. We have plenty of problems. It's easy to point out the flaws of other people, but we get a lot further by pointing out people's successes. And I think that's just like the bigger part of this is like understanding you do have the power to make a difference. Caring should never be a bad thing. We should care more about each other.
100%.
And so for me,
it's easy to do.
Yeah. I mean,
Very easy.
I think that's the thing is like, it's so easy to find the negatives and things. Like, you got to find the positive. Look at the positive spin to you caring about your business. And then just remember, obviously we're going to be back every week with another episode. We're going to try to every week. Next week, we're going to talk about promoting yourself, and why being your company's biggest fan is a good thing. Like, you should be your company's biggest fan, and you should promote yourself. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, how to self-promote, how to really take care of yourself and your business, and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to be proud of what you've built. So
absolutely. Yeah, show it off, man.
Yeah. So that's my wrap on this week. You got anything for the listeners this week? Or are we?
I think we're pretty much done. I got to get back out there and finish reading my book.
Yeah.
Reading a book about two ants that fell in love in an Italian city. It's a romance novel.
Jesus. Unreal. Well, on that note, I appreciate each and every one of you guys listening to us every single week. Obviously, the two of us are kind of a bunch of clowns sometimes, and I don't know that we even know what we're talking about half the time, but we have fun doing it. So thank you for tuning in to Talking Shop with ShopSabre. I am Brandon.
And I am Nick.
Continue to talk shop, and we'll see you next time.